Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are reviewing the new Ghostbusters movie. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And it reprises the same stars from the last movie, Paul Rudd and the rest, and also the original three of the original Ghostbusters plus the secretary. And I apologize, I don't remember her name, but I was kind of surprised to see her, but it was nice to see her. So, anyway, where do we begin? It's really kind of a dull movie, and I don't know how much Marco wants to tell about it, but believe it or not, nothing much happens. It's odd. There's really not much of a story. It's very fragile and bare storyline, whatever it is. I guess there's a couple of they could kind of go into each other, and the mayor doesn't like them, and he wants to shut them down, and then I don't know why actually Paul Rudd, who's supposed to, he continues to call himself the kid's teacher, and then you have the mother and the kids, and there's no reasoning, no explanation as to why they're there, because they're in New York City. This whole movie takes place in New York City, and if you recall the last movie, they were in the country, so we don't know how they moved from one place to the other. Why? None of them. So It looks like they're doing the original Ghostbusters with the uniforms and going around catching ghosts, but how did they get there? How did they get to that point?
This movie is basically like a TV show episode.
Yeah, it really kind of is.
And I felt that, and then immediately after I saw the movie, I heard that apparently they took inspiration from the real Ghostbusters cartoon TV show. And I thought, what a dumbass idea. Taking inspiration from 20-minute cartoon episodes in order to make a 2-hour movie. That's just idiotic. And because if you condensed the story down to like a 20-minute episode, it would probably work a little bit better, even though there's no actual plot or anything that really happens the whole movie, except for the bullshit that happens that we're going to get into. But it really does feel like they start off, they're already Ghostbusters in New York for no reason at all, and there's just no connectivity. Like last movie, it had quite a few problems, but it felt like such a better story. It felt like things actually happened in the movie sometimes, and it felt like it made sense, kind of. This movie did not make sense at all in any way, shape, or form. It starts off, and there's no reason for any of these people to be in New York.
No explanation.
I hate it. Like, especially like when you get into, what was the black girl from the last movie, the waitress? Like,
she's in it.
She's in New York for some random reason.
She's working for the Institute.
Yeah, like she went from being a waitress at a little diner, a roller skate diner, whatever, like a little fucking hick town diner, to being a scientist.
Yeah, she's being trained to do all these activities.
Really weird.
Ghost.
Just really nonsensical and stupid. And she's a scientist now. I mean, what's up with that? And then we'll get into all the relationship stuff too, because that's really bad in this movie. Because one of the things is that in the last movie, she had the little romance with Finn Wolfhard's character, and in this movie, they're just friends. They're not like a boyfriend-girlfriend at all. And it's like, what the fuck is up with that? But then you have this stupid lesbian relationship the whole fucking movie, like, shoved in our faces. Like, what the fuck is up with that? Right, Safi?
Yes, Marco.
Yeah. Like, why are they just suddenly not in a relationship? Like, there's no discussion. There's no, like... There's nothing. Who wrote this shit?
Yeah. It's a very bare.
And you have podcast. Podcast is in New York for some reason. And by the way, remember in Ghostbusters Afterlife when the waitress girl, her father was the sheriff of that town, whatever that town was. Well, the sheriff isn't even in this movie, ever. He's never in this movie.
No.
And I thought, like, you know, these writers, they obviously don't care about logic or reasoning, so it's really telling that they wouldn't want to bring back that father, that sheriff, and put him in this town, have him be on a vacation or something. I don't know. Oh, God.
Then they have two.
Ugh.
They have Dan Aykroyd. He is doing some kind of, Marco was saying, a podcast with this kid. I don't know where the kid came from.
Safi, the kid's name is Podcast. Remember him from the last movie?
Oh, he's in the last movie?
Oh,
okay, well, he's in
no.
it. I don't remember.
Safi, he was one of the main characters,
Okay,
along
well,
with
he's
the
in
girl.
And then, but there's some random British guy, and I don't remember any British guy from any other previous movie.
He wasn't in the last movie, but like
So
he's just some random guy. We don't even know his name.
Nope.
The British guy.
And
He sucked. He was a cardboard cutout. He didn't have a fucking character either. He was just trash. He was just a lame, just shitty excuse for a character.
Yeah. And he, you know, they had this paranormal institute, and
It's in the zoo.
the British guy works there along with the girl who was the waitress.
You know what they say about the zoo. Remember in Rocky, Safi? You know what they say about the zoo.
No, I don't know.
Well, go back and rewatch the movie and you'll find out.
I don't like any of those movies.
Well, it's better than this shit.
I still don't.
This drivel, this cardboard trash, this content, this AI generated shit of a movie. Safi.
Well, you know, we went to a what would you call it, a convention a few years back, several years back, and we saw the Ghostbuster mobile. And I'm wondering if that's the one they used for this movie.
No, Safi.
No, okay. So, because they were riding around in New York City with that.
Yeah, the movie starts off and they're riding around, since Safi's just going to jump all around. I was going through the characters, but I guess we're just not going to do that fully. The characters are just, they're solving some random ghost of the week in New York, and Phoebe is taking charge, and she said, and there's this one really cringeworthy line where what did she say? Like, I've got to bust ghosts, or something like that. Like, she said it in a really odd way to where it was so, like, forced and cheesy and stupid sounding, and then she's the one who gets the ghost, whatever, and I thought, okay, this movie's not terrible, but it is kind of like, okay, here, what's going on? This movie is not off to a great start, because there's no connectivity at all.
No,
it's just like, they're already in New York, and it's like, they weren't trying to rush the story either, you know? Nothing happens in the movie until, like, the last, like, 15 minutes of the movie.
Maybe even less.
Yeah, because, like, when we saw the trailer, I thought, like, the first 30 minutes would set up the story, and then the rest of the movie, it's like, oh, it's Christmas in July. It's July, but the whole city's frozen for the whole movie. No, only the last 20 minutes or so. The rest of the movie is just garbage, exposition, silly bullshit, and a stupid lesbian relationship that didn't need to be there. But right off the bat, this Phoebe character, it's really upsetting because she was really good in the last movie. Right, Safi? Can you remember that at least?
Yes, I do.
Since you don't remember
really good. I thought she was strong,
main character. Yeah.
And I thought she was smart and creative.
Likeable, fun, funny, charming.
She's kind of in a bad way. I guess because she's kind of disrespected too. Because when they went out in this ghost chase,
Safi, she was destroying the city.
yeah,
they should not have children Ghostbusters. I'm sorry, that's just not something that should
and
be.
They said that too.
And I did think that was nice, at least that they made an argument against that, and they kind of started off with that, because a lot of people with the last movie, they criticized that their children Ghostbusters, and that should not be allowed to happen. It's silly.
And then they start out with it?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And so that's the whole plot, and basically Phoebe's character, she's mad the whole movie because she's not allowed to be a Ghostbuster. She has to wait until she's 18. But the thing is that Phoebe's character, you're supposed to root for her, and you're supposed to want her to be a Ghostbuster and succeed, but you really don't, because she's really, really bitchy in this movie. She's not the same character at all.
She's very unhappy.
She never changes the entire movie. She never has an arc where she becomes like a better Ghostbuster, and she changes her ways and stops destroying everything. She just... In fact, she gets worse. She does something that actually causes all the bad shit in the movie to happen because of her stupid shoehorn lesbian relationship that we'll get into. So, yeah, that's pretty bad, Safi.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, her character, she was like the focus of this movie. She was the center, and that was a bad choice because, wow. Ugh.
They did have the story, there's always a bad ghost that's supreme over everybody.
And this ghost, I don't even, what's the villain's name in this movie? Like, I don't even know the villain's name.
I'll have to look. I might have written it.
I
don't know if I could. I was listening.
Is it like...
It was hard to figure out what they were saying.
You know what would have been a good villainous name for a ghost? Safi?
I don't know.
Freezer Burn.
Nah.
That would have been a good villain name.
Or they should have called him Freezer Boy.
Or, Chili Willy. Oh!
Garaka.
No. What? Garaka? What the hell is that? Like a Greek yogurt brand?
That's his name.
Oh!
Garaka.
What the hell? What's that, like a Mortal Kombat character?
I don't know. I tried to listen as well as I could because...
Oh.
And spell it. But I don't think it's, I'm sure it's not spelled right. I never saw...
They could have called this guy Chili Willy, Freezer Burn, something related to cold. They call him Garaka. What the hell?
They find him in some kind of book. And
what the hell?
The guy who's an expert in, just the research of all these spirits, he finds it, tells them about it, the whole story, and that's where the name came from him.
Yeah, he was a big letdown. Let's just say that. Like, you thought that the bad guy in Ghostbusters 2 was a letdown. What was that guy, the Destroyer or something, like the Conqueror or whatever? Like,
the Firestarter, right?
In the second original movie, Safi?
Oh, no, I don't know.
The villain in that movie, the long-haired guy, where he was so bad they had to overdub all of his lines with another actor. He was a letdown. And this villain was an even bigger letdown because he was complete trash. He was just all computer generation. He had
like a big tree.
Yeah, he had no
horns.
He had no motivation. He was terrible.
Like he was wearing a long skirt.
Yeah.
He had 2 horns.
He looked like he could be the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
The Blair Witch.
Look like something like that. And
yeah.
You remind me of something else. I think it was in the Sleepy Hollow TV series. I think something in that too. Like he was like even though he was like a freezing entity where he'd freeze everybody, he looked like a big stick. Like sticks and a stick man, and which is really weird. So Marco says it's AI, of course, he's right, and but I don't even know. Did we even see his face?
Yeah.
We kind of barely saw
It
his
was
face. It was
just a
mainly the
generic.
figure.
It was just a generic face, though.
Yeah.
It was nothing that involved any actual thought or creativity. It was just kind of like, let's come up with the most generic villain possible, because the focus here, we're trying to focus on Phoebe and her character, and her character's trash, and her character, like, just from beginning to end, I did not like. I don't think I liked anyone in this movie except for Ray.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
Dan Aykroyd,
He was the best, I think.
he was the only actor in this whole movie who felt like he knew the script was bad, but he was really trying to make his character give off some emotion, and he did a pretty good job. Like, it's just too bad that the movie was just so terrible that, like, even his performance and his, you know, everything that he did, it's all, it's for nothing. Cause
Isn't he one of the original creators? He and that other guy, the one who passed away, of the original Ghostbusters. So maybe he has more invested in it, and he also knows it really well, and so he knows how to, as best as he can, make it work.
Yeah, and you know, let's talk about the other characters, because, like, let's talk about Finn Wolfhard. You know, he I don't know what happened to him. Like, he looks like Igor now. He looks like he could be in a Frankenstein movie playing Igor to, like, Dr. Frankenstein.
I don't know.
Right?
He's very tall.
Like, he's always, like, slouched forward, and he always, like, I don't know, he has a look about him where he should be playing Igor or something. Like, it's just really weird. And there's this one really cringeworthy scene where I was thinking, like, this scene is total, like, it's weird, because he gets slimed at one point in the movie.
It goes in his mouth.
And the way that looked, it looked very, very bad. Let's just say, I'm not gonna get. It looked
really unpleasant.
It looked very, very weird. It looked like something that should not have been in a movie. It looked like in the original Ghostbusters, they get slimed, they get covered in marshmallow. It doesn't look like it does in this movie, where it goes into Finn Wolfhard's mouth and he spits it out.
Ugh.
And
Ugh.
just the way that scene looked, I can't really describe it. But let's just say, like, I didn't want to see that in a Ghostbusters movie. And I didn't want to see that in general. There's a list of things I didn't want to see, and that was one of them. Safi?
Okay, well, I don't know what else to say. I think
What?
He's really weird looking, and he's
Oh.
very tall. He has no beard, which I'm wondering how old he is. I don't watch that Stranger Things show.
I think he's 18.
Isn't that where he's from? Where he's originally from, like years and years, from a little kid to
Yeah,
now?
well, I think he's 18, but, like, in this movie, he looked like Igor. And, and you know, then Phoebe, you know, she looks okay. She looks fine, but her character was really bad, and her character just stayed bad the entire movie. And then the parents, they're fine. I mean,
not the parents. Only the mother is the parent.
Safi, he's the stepdad now. He's a parent.
Are you sure about that? Because it didn't seem like that to me.
Oh, God.
He didn't say that, Marco.
Safi.
He said he was the teacher. And he said...
Safi, the whole arc of the movie is that at the end of the movie, she calls him dad accidentally because he has become her new dad and they're in a relationship. Are you kidding me? Are you going to argue about that too?
I know they're in a relationship.
About an obvious
There's
thing like
something
that?
they said.
He's the dad, Safi.
Okay, Marco, whatever.
It's just a joke that he says that he was the science teacher. It's not that serious, Safi.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
He's the father now. But these
really-
parents, they had good chemistry together.
But I don't think he has that big of a part.
But no, they didn't have a big part.
I think it was mainly Phoebe and Dan Aykroyd.
And it's funny because it really should have been a lot better than it was, because there could have been a story here where the parents discover, like, this is why children should not be Ghostbusters, because they'll do shit like what Phoebe does later in the movie. But there's no sort of story or realization for them. All it is that after she's done the bad thing, she's like, "Are you guys totally mad at me or what?" And then he's like, "No, honey, we're not mad at you. We were just worried about you." That's the only discussion that they ever have about her potentially ending the world. Like, that's their discussion about that.
Yeah. Well, we have to bring in that other character, Nazim.
What character?
Nazim, the
What?
fire starter.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other lesbo. The ghost lesbo.
There's also a ghost.
Oh, we'll get to that. Let's get through Nazim first. He was trash too. I mean, I don't know what it is with Kumail Nanjiani thinking he can act. I'm so sick and tired of seeing him in movies nowadays. Like, can we get real actors in movies, please? Because like,
it all starts. He inherited a bunch of stuff from his grandma, and there's this ball or egg or something, and he sells it to Dan Aykroyd, who does that podcast, and he was a Ghostbuster, but he's still into the paranormal, of course, and then he leaves. He sold it to him for $50 or something.
yeah.
And then this is where they find out this egg thing. They find out that is related to this bad ghost, bad entity, Garaka, and
Chilly Willy.
It's Chilly Willy.
Isn't that the perfect villain name for a ice character, Safi? I mean, you can't get better than that.
A lot more fun.
Garaka. Ugh.
And anyway, this Nazim guy, he is supposed to be his grandma or his grandpa, I guess, was a fire starter, and I mean it goes way back in their generations.
Fire Master.
Fire Master.
And I just gotta say, like, Fire Master sounds like some kind of a sexual role-playing name, so I don't know why they went with Fire Master for Kumail.
You were saying, too, it sounded like a Mortal Kombat name, didn't you?
No, Garaka did. Well, actually, Fire Master also does, kinda.
Yeah.
So, we got another Mortal Kombat character.
So
and
we've got Fire Master.
And he actually...
Garaka.
He actually dresses like a Mortal Kombat character at the end, where he has this armor, and he's all decked out in the stupid armor outfit with
he got that from his collection.
His stupid
collection.
Stupid fire abilities. That whole story is complete stupidity, dumb shit.
And he doesn't know any of this. They have to tell him, and he has to practice moving fire.
I mean, we've gotten to the point in Ghostbusters where people have fire powers like it's a superhero show. Like, this is stupid. Like, this is not Ghostbusters at all. This is like fan fiction, bad fan fiction at best. Like, we never needed to have characters with superpowers in Ghostbusters. You know?
Okay, so in the end, we're going to have Nakim, or the Fire Master, versus Garaka.
Mortal Kombat! Right?
Yeah. So
that's what it was like.
I guess Marco has to talk about this other character.
Whoa.
I'll call her the girl ghost.
The girl ghost.
I never heard her name.
No, she said her name. It was Melody.
I never heard it.
So, anyways, let me just...
She died in a tenement fire.
Let me,
along with her family.
Okay, Safi, it's my time now.
Okay.
You know, because you've been interrupting a lot this review.
Okay.
You know, people don't like that. Okay. They like for people to just let each other talk and not interrupt each other. So, let's get into this character, this very, very terrible character. So you got Phoebe. She's really mad. She doesn't understand. She's an idiot. She's a 15-year-old idiot, or 16 or something.
She says she's 15.
She's like fucking older in real life now, but like she she's like 16 or something. She's really mad, and she goes out to the park to play chess. Hopefully she doesn't get raped or kidnapped by Allison Mack to get put in a sex cult. And so she's playing chess with herself, and all of a sudden, ooh, there's a girl ghost who shows up, and she's blonde. And she's she's playing chess with her, and they start this relationship, and they're clearly both lesbos, and it's just so cringeworthy because, like, Melody, she's given this really stereotypical lesbian haircut, to where it's like, it's really, really dated, like this, like, lesbian stereotyping, and just the fact that, like, because Phoebe is a smart girl, and she's got more of, like, a tomboyish look, it's like, oh, she has to be lesbian, because she's tomboyish. And it made me come to the sad realization that if they had made the original Ghostbusters nowadays, instead of in the 80s, the secretary, I think her name was Miss Potts, she would have been a lesbian too. Because she had the short hair, she had the tomboyish hair, the tomboyish look. She wouldn't have been allowed to get into a relationship with a man. And so that's why I was saying about how, like, and maybe Safi's right, they're not really fully getting into the relationship with Paul Rudd and that other woman, even though it's pretty clear they're in a relationship. I don't know what... I mean,
yes,
he's the father now. He's the father. That's what happens. He's the stepfather. I think at one point he even says, like, step scientist or step teacher or something is a joke.
They just say all kinds of weird stuff.
He says...
all out of place, and
he says he's
around like pieces of dust floating under the... or dust bunnies under a bed. He says he's her step teacher, and that's like a joke in the movie. But, you know, Finn Wolfhard, he's not allowed to be in a relationship with the waitress girl. But you have this relationship, the entire movie is centered around this stupid, needless, shoehorned in lesbian relationship that should never have been in the movie, ever. Clearly, this movie is like... This movie is almost... I would say it's probably the second most agenda-filled movie I've seen of the year so far. I mean, it was that bad. And there's even this one cringeworthy part where the ghost... She's terrible, by the way. She's really, really bad. I mean, I know we've seen her before. I can't remember where. I have no idea.
She's really generic looking, though. And she is causing a disturbance in this restaurant and causes Phoebe... to rebel and go be a Ghostbuster and try to get her, and then she finds out it's her, and she's like, oh no, and she brings Podcast along, and this is the part where Safi can't deny that she's lesbian anymore, because the girl says, who's the third wheel?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so when they walked in, and she saw there was a boy there with them, she said, who's the third wheel? That's the kind of sickening shit they're putting in these movies now. And so, anyways, it gets to the point of where Phoebe, she's like, what is it like to be a ghost? Because, you know, if I can't be a Ghostbuster, I want to be a ghost myself. Because that makes a lot of sense. Not! And you know what? She asks Ray, too. And you know what Ray should have said? Ray should have said... You know what? I had a love interest in the original Ghostbusters movie. Remember that, Safi? A ghost came into Ray's room while he was in bed, and she gave him a sexual favor while he was lying down. That was in the original movie. And so Phoebe, if she wanted to be with this bitch so bad, she wouldn't need to become a ghost to be with this bitch. So why didn't they ever bring that up? I mean, that's just total nonsense. And so then they actually, they get to the point. This whole movie is centered around this stupid relationship. And so Phoebe goes to the center in the middle of the night
This is the paranormal center.
Yeah, the zoo.
The research center.
And you know who goes to the zoo, Safi. Polly from Rocky tells you. And she's like, there's this machine in here, and it can turn me into a ghost for 2 minutes, which is just long enough for me and you to, woo! And so then she turns herself into a ghost so that she can...
It's on a timer.
It's on a timer. They got a time limit. It's like a visit. She's got a little ghost visit going on with this other lesbo. And that's what the whole movie is centered around. And then all of a sudden, the other lesbian is like, oh, actually, I'm betraying you. And I'm just helping the bad guy possess you so that you can mess with the ball and then unleash him. And it's really funny because I knew at that point, there's another thing where you can tell the movie is an agenda movie, because in agenda movies, they never let a woman be a villain. If a woman is a villain, she's always redeemed, and she always has some sort of a reason for what she's doing, and you're always supposed to sympathize with her and forgive her. And meanwhile, the man, he is the villain. He is the true villain who is, like, worse than anything. He cannot be forgiven. And that's exactly what happens. She has this whole, like, sad little sob story where she's like, I just want to see my parents. I just want to see my family. And, like, that's her reason for ending the world.
Yeah.
It's just out of nowhere. It's so stupid and dumb. And so, but at the end of the movie, Melody, she actually helps them. She has a little redemption, and she has a little, because she's a girl. She doesn't get to be a villain. She has to have, like, a redemption where she helps them, and only the man is the villain. Only the Grognak or Graga or whatever, Chilly Willy. Let's call him Chilly Willy. Only he is the bad guy. And so she helps defeat him, and then she gets to go to heaven, but she never gets to kiss Phoebe. And it's like, oh, wham, I really don't give a fuck. Because they ruined it. I mean, they really ruined this series. I mean, this movie, I don't know. Like, it might be worse than Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Right?
Maybe.
Because this feels similar to Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
It's like they bastardized it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing that she has an object with her, the ghost girl, Melody. And it's a book of matches, but it's real. It's not a ghostly object. And she's been, every so often, maybe she started the tenement fire. I don't know.
Oh.
Because she's carrying around this book of matches.
On accident?
Yeah, I think she said that. It's hard to say because they don't...
There's no story. There's no attempts at, like, clearly defining characters and making stories. It's just everything's random.
They float with pieces of story around.
Yeah, it's like they don't have the balls to actually, like, stand by anything that they're doing.
But every so often, every time they show them together or show her, she lights a match. And she's down to this last match. And you think, is that supposed to be significant? And you don't know because there's just no, it's just so loose and floaty. And the whole story, all the story. And so apparently it is significant. So if you watch the movie, watch for the matchbook and the last match, because that will play a role in the defeat of the bad guy, Chilly Willy or Chihuahua versus a fire maker or whatever. Because he has a lighter. And he had to practice. Remember, I told you, he doesn't really know his power. He just found out all about this. He just thought his grandma collected weird stuff. I mean, he has a ton of stuff. And he's trying to sell it like eBay. He even calls himself a reseller.
Well, let's talk about, because I would like to mention, too, with the last movie, there were a lot of people who just said that the movie was like nostalgia bait.
Yeah. That's
you know,
what I thought of it too.
You thought the last movie was just nostalgia bait?
No, I just thought there was nostalgia too, and I mean, I really appreciated them bringing the old Ghostbusters back and them playing a role in what happened.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
There were a lot of people, though, that thought the last movie was nothing but nostalgia bait. It was mostly pathetic fanboys of Ghostbusters 2016. And when people said that this movie was, like, nostalgia bait and just nothing but fan service, I was like, really? Like, I was hoping that maybe, like, that was just the first one that had a lot of nostalgia, and then this one would have the really good meaty story that we were missing from the last one. But no, this movie is the last one amplified by a million degrees. There is just nothing but nostalgia in this movie. Like, they have this little library chase where there's this thing where spirits possess objects and things, and that whole thing doesn't really make much sense either.
And it's very quick and
I wasn't really even paying attention, but they have this chase sequence, and all of a sudden the library ghost is there, and she sees Ray again, and then she comes at him and tries to get him, and it looks terrible, by the way, because they're not really, the effects just, they look so fake and phony compared to how they looked in that first movie, because, you know, the first movie, the people who did those effects, those were the people who did the effects for Fright Night. You know, they weren't fucking around. You know, they put a lot of work and skill into what they were doing. And this movie, it's like a cartoon. I guess that's what they wanted. They took inspiration from a fucking TV show. And you know what I have to say about that, too? Like, instead of taking inspiration from a 20-minute cartoon, why don't you take inspiration from your brain? You know, like, why does everything nowadays, it's like, people have to take inspiration from something else. They can't just come up with one original idea in their fucking brains. You know, like, it's just, it's sick. It's like everything is just recycled now. Everything is recycled properties, recycled stories, recycled characters. You know, the people who made the original Ghostbusters, they didn't have anything to be inspired off of. They came up with all the ideas themselves.
Yeah.
Safi.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, no, what else do you have to say? Do you have anything else? Because, like...
No, I really don't. Like I said, that matchbook plays part in the end, and the Nakeem, he dresses in that armor, like Marco said, which he probably got from his grandma's stuff, and it was in his family, because they're the family of fire makers or whatever, and he's been practicing with this lighter to manipulate fire, because he's just found out he can do this stuff. And
You've already talked about that twice. You've already said that twice.
So...
I meant, did you have anything else to say that you haven't already said before?
Else to say about, I don't know what else to say about the story. There's nothing.
It sucked.
The mayor shuts him down.
It was really boring too. Like, this movie,
it was very quiet.
It was such a slog, and it was like 2 hours. Nothing happens till the last 15 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes sucks too. And you got Phoebe. Her character learns nothing. She's just a nitwit the entire time. She's nothing like she was in the first movie. Podcast is hardly a part of the story because he's a boy. And so, you know, we have to focus on the lesbian relationship. We can't focus on the boy anymore. I fucking hate this movie. I think this movie is abysmal. I think it has destroyed the series once again. I think, like, this is definitely, like, a series low point right here. Just like 2016. Because they had all the ingredients. They had everything at their disposal. They had everything to their advantage, and they screwed it up. That's what I have to say.
And after they have the big conflict at the end, at the very, very end, they play the original song, and they show the crowd, and they show the Ghostbuster mobile.
And the music for the rest of the movie was terrible, too. Like, there wasn't really any music of note the rest of the movie.
Not really. Which it seemed like, didn't they play in the original movies? Didn't they play that song a few times?
Yeah.
They only played, didn't they just really play it at the end?
Yeah.
In its entirety?
Yeah.
Because I don't think at the beginning, it's really an historic scene. And it's some kind of adventure society, and they have this antique, it's 1904, they have this antique fire truck, which was interesting. And they have these firemen dressed in their historic uniforms coming up to respond to something at the Adventure Society where everybody's frozen and the air is frozen, and I'm not even sure how they got. That's where the bad being shows himself.
I don't even know what that was. I mean, I don't know anything.
They didn't show how it came about, and didn't show how. Did they show how it was defeated?
What?
The bad guy.
It back in the olden days?
Yeah, 1904.
I don't even know. Like
Because the next moment after they show the firefighters break into the...
I just turned my brain off and tried to survive this movie. Like, yeah. I really couldn't handle it. Like, it was so bad and so brain dead and dumb.
Well, right after that, they showed modern day. And this is when they show Paul Rudd and the mother and the two kids in the Ghostmobile riding through New York, shooting down... what did they call it? A sewer ghost? Something like that. And that was, so I couldn't figure out that with the being, how it got put back into the egg, and I didn't see any fire starter person, nothing. So,
Safi,
like I said, it was just very disjointed, it was very light, hardly anything happened. Right at the beginning, and they really didn't show much of it. They just, the only interesting thing was the antique fire engine and the old-time firemen's, people wearing old-time firemen's uniforms. And then the big conflict at the end. But really hardly anything happens. And just periodically, they'll show one of the ghosts from like before. They show the
like every fucking 5 minutes in this movie, they have to have like a ghost or something from the original movie to bait the fans.
The green guy.
To be like, oh, look, it's Slimer, remember him?
Eats everything inside.
Oh, look, it's the marshmallows, remember them? And it's like, yeah, I remember the original movie where there was actually a story going on. The movie was fucking good. This movie didn't have shit. It gave you shit. Safi, what was your food review, though? Because you wanted to end at a certain time, and so I'm trying to help you.
I think I'll just give it a burned marshmallow. Because they did have the marshmallow guys, and they got frozen, they got burned, they got everything. They didn't have a giant one like in the original.
Burned marshmallows are good, though.
I mean, really burned.
It's really good.
They're real cute, little tiny marshmallows. Jet marshmallows, men, a bunch of them. They were really cute.
They were in the last movie.
They remind me of the Pillsbury Doughboy figures. And that's what I give it. There just wasn't much going on. I was really disappointed because I really was looking forward to watching it. And I really, like Marco, I just had to force myself to keep watching it.
Yeah.
Because I knew there was going to be some big conflict at the end, but I'll tell you, it was a very short conflict. The whole thing where everything got frozen up, and it went on for about 2 seconds. I mean, it didn't happen for very long at all, and I don't know. It was just not a good movie. Sorry, but not good. What was your food review?
I was glad that Patton Oswalt wasn't in it for very long, because that was also like a huge turnoff of this movie, was like him being in it. Ew.
Is that a librarian?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh god, thank god he is not in the movie anymore, because like the movie was already bad enough. And so I honestly, like, I don't know, like, what rating I could give that's even bad enough to describe how bad this movie is, because, like, I'm trying to think about frozen foods and getting sick or eating frozen foods. Like, has there been, like, a time where there's been a really gross, like, frozen
Just
food
those,
experience?
Just those Gordon Ramsay frozen foods.
Well, I do also remember one time we got corn dogs and we didn't check, but they were beef corn dogs and they were really gross.
Ew, gross.
Okay, I have a perfect review. You know, we really like corn dogs.
We tried to make them too, but I don't know.
We tried to make corn dogs and it was a disaster.
And I don't know why, because when everybody does them on MasterChef, it looks easy.
I mean, you look up corn dog recipe online, everyone and their brother can make corn dogs except for me, except for Safi and I. Like, you have allrecipes.com, they can make a corn dog. Natasha's Kitchen, fucking In the Kitchen with Matt, like, all these people can make corn dogs, but I can't. And so we tried to make corn dogs, and, you know, it was a disaster. The breading on the outside kept falling off. It wouldn't stick.
Yeah,
It wouldn't cook all the way through. It would burn. And we were just basically eating corn dogs with remnants of batter on it. And they were really, really gross, disgusting. You know, but this movie, though, you know how... Well, Safi wouldn't know, but basically, for the worst movie of the year so far, I said that movie was like being on the toilet all night with violent food poisoning. Well, this movie is like having food poisoning to that extent for an entire weekend. Because it's like for that whole weekend you're just suffering and suffering and suffering, and you just want it to end. So that's what I'd give this movie.
Okay.
Those homemade corn dogs along with the side of violent diarrhea for an entire weekend. Like, I hate this movie with a passion. There's nothing good about this movie. I bet a lot of people are going to be blinded by just seeing the Slimer, whatever, and they're going to say it's good because it's like Ghostbusters stuff is in it.
He only shows up a couple times, and it's very brief.
Yeah.
Extremely brief. It's like somebody tapping you on the shoulder and disappearing.
Yeah.
Really. And, that's what I mean. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole movie is just like that. Everything is very brief, disjointed, inexplicable. So anyway, we've been through it, and I don't know. I don't, Paul Rudd, he's from Kansas City. I don't like, putting anything he does down.
But he has bad luck with being in bad movies sometimes.
He does. It's a shame. And he's a very likable person.
Yeah.
I really like him. And anyway, but I don't know if I could recommend the movie. I just wouldn't want you to waste your time watching it, because you'd probably be very disappointed.
Especially, I think the worst thing about it is how they ruined Phoebe's character. Because I really liked her in the last movie. I thought she was the star of last movie. And she's terrible in this movie, though.
Which is sad. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And tell us why you're watching. Hopefully you'll find a movie this weekend that you like to watch, whether it's a past, like an older movie, or something new that's come out. Bye, everybody.
Bye.